And so this is ethics, life, and life force in the context of AI. And it's a complex system perspective. So let me walk through this and the salutations to Maharishi and all the Siddhas as well as everyone here as well. Thank you. And okay, so just want to introduce it from the systems perspective and what systems are. So briefly speaking, I'm not referring to the computer system. So systems here is a set of interrelated components and working together towards some common objectives. So systems may include, of course, computer systems, as most people understand, social systems, biological system, ecosystems, and and universe as a whole. So anything that works together. There is often a containing system around it or the environment. And there are components, boundaries, and interrelationships between the components. And there is an input and output. Often this sort of perspective is taught in systems thinking, systems engineering, and these are actually my background, so I thought I would start from that vantage point. And, but the systems can have its resources, components, and it may have its objectives and management. Systems can get complex over time, over certain conditions. Primarily, it's a dynamic complexity or the interaction that makes it a complex system. Complex system by itself has, of course, it has many components, and they are dynamically interacting and a set of levels and scale. So here, most of you are health professionals. So in that sense, the human body it's a classic example of complex system, and there is often it's composed of subsystems, organs and cells, and then further down to the molecular level. They all build up to give you the whole system that you would call a human, or in this case, or an organism. But there could be organisms inside the humans, as we all know now. And then so this interaction is what creates the complexity, and this becomes a self-organizing system, and it can be in this case it is. And then there can be hierarchies among them. And then emergence is an interesting concept that we will look at, wherein certain properties become part of a higher level system, but not part of the constituting elements. So if we were to look at some simple principles, one thing maybe worth mentioning is stability. And so if a ball is sitting on a peak and it can roll on either side, and because it is unstable, it's at a high energy state and it could roll. But in a trough, it is stable. And it may be a local trough or a really, really deep trough. But in either case, a small perturbation would still keep it within the trough. So that is why we call it it's a basin of stability. But if you push it too much, it will tip over. Now think of this in the context of healthcare, for example, or any other system. And similarly, and any two perspectives of a system will reveal truths which are neither independent or compatible. There's a complementarity, meaning different perspectives do have independent and not entirely compatible, but still a process to be coexisting. That contradiction exists. And the darkness principle, we only see the tip of the iceberg. We cannot know the whole truth frequently. That is assumed for an average human or for a conditioned mind. The principle that of emergence is that the constituting elements may come together and create a higher level system, but the higher level system might exhibit properties that does not exist in or attributable to any one of the components. So so the property of the higher level system emerges from that interaction. And simple case is smell of ammonia, because we all know the combination of nitrogen and hydrogen and exhibit a smell that is neither hydrogen or the nitrogen. Same with sodium chloride, etc. But these are simple examples. But as you can see, so it is, and not only that, and parts may have properties that are not manifested in the whole. And then as the system moves dynamically, it may have different pathways. And the pathways may depend on where it starts, or maybe it all ends in a different pathway or much more complex loops. And feedback is an important characteristic. The feedback is what defines and creates the dynamic complexity. And the feedback can be, negative feedback or controlling feedback. So if the temperature rises, something cools down, as in the case of thermostats, and so on. That is a negative feedback. Or it can be a vicious cycle. It can keep on adding, and things would go out of control as well. There is a principle of hierarchy, as I mentioned earlier. The lower level elements come together to constitute the higher level elements, and then it goes on and on. So as we discussed, in the case of in the case of, say, human body, starting from subatomic particles constituting atoms to molecules and so on, and then at the cellular level, and tissues, organs, and the human. You can't keep on adding the society from interacting humans or an ecosystem interacting life form and so on. But we talked about this stability or the homeostasis. Homeostasis is that it stabilizes. I don't need to explain to you what homeostasis is. It's an ability to reach balance. But however, it's good to also recognize that balance will happen only within a certain zone. Or if you push it too much, it might go off. So that's where we say it goes out of the basin of stability, sometimes into a chaotic region. Okay. And then there is also a principle of self organization. And so this is just freezing up a little bit. Okay, so self-organization. Now think of this. Okay, and also the requisite variety to control and operate a system. Often you require a level of complexity that needs to match the the system that you are actually operating. So these are some of the principles of complex systems, as we often see. But where it is um, interesting to look at it is this is a vantage point or a perspective or thinking process, as you might call it. And for us in this in the sky or in the Vethanthrium, for example, whole exhibit properties that cannot be reduced to past. And one of the questions to ask is Uyurotam, or the life force, an emergent phenomena? And it emerges from the interactions of, uh, different particles, as Maharishi has um, explained, and then the biomagnetism arises, and maybe it is interacting with thought and eventually consciousness, and so on. There could be an emergent hierarchy, starting from this infinitesimal uh, potentiate particles to rise up each level. Same with homeostasis and so on. But also to think about in the homeostasis is our impurities such as greed, anger, immoral habits may be creating the perturbation, and whereas homeostatic support coming from Kaya Kalpa and as well as other practices. Okay, so I will leave this perspective for now to actually think about and go further, but I will introduce where AI fits in here. There are 2 points here. One is the influence of AI on daily life and spirituality and everything around AI on life, and the usefulness of AI in spirituality in general. Okay, so I think everyone has good familiarity with AI, but we also recognize it's a long journey. It's been there for about 75 years in this form. But what it is it's a technique that enables systems to perform tasks that normally requiring human intelligence. In this case, I'm referring to a computer system here. And and it's one of the recent techniques is machine learning, which is the ability to learn from data without being explicitly programmed. And the machine learns from data. And one of the specific techniques in that, where the components that learns and stores information mimics neurons in a very rudimentary way. And we call them perceptrons or neurons. And such network, when it is employed in learning, we call it deep learning. And then there are certain specific types of neural networks configurations. We call it transformers architecture, and many complex transformer architecture are what is currently used in these large language frontier models that you are seeing. All the LLMs are part of that. So it's again another subsystem. And so what, in this case, AI, it's a technological system that kind of processes the data and other resources, and it turns it into predictions, recommendations, decisions, or other type of contents or support. But it is a socio-material context. It's these predictions are not free. There is energy requirement, and there is some degree of autonomy from, but it does operate to some degree of autonomy from human actors. So I just want to give you very quick examples of these from my work, but I will extend it later. So one is diagnosis. Of course, you already know about this, but there are two types of learning that either you you may have data with the examples with labeled data that you already have the answers as well. The historic data with all the symptoms as well as the actual diagnosis and um, from medical practitioners can be collected, and the machine is taught and to detect that using those examples. The second one is there are no examples, but you are seeing the patterns as they arise, and that is unsupervised learning. So we are utilizing both, but the process is an important part. It's often it goes through the four steps. Firstly, and the most important step is to define or formulate the problem. And among formulating the problem, several consideration comes in. Of course, interacting and getting the information from um, is one, but also co-designing with the healthcare professionals. In fact, they lead the studies, co-designing the healthcare with healthcare professionals. What should be the outcome of these studies? And so they work together and uh, and and come up with the problem, and then acquire data and process and explore, and then you develop the model. The model is a representation, but also you set aside some aside data from the that used to build the model. Some data is set aside. This is unseen data for testing the model. So the trainer is not the examiner. So you use that fresh data to evaluate the model. And then, of course, you will want to use even more external data and so on. So once a model is adequate enough, then we call it that a proof of concept. At that point, it can go towards deployment, but it also considerations of regulatory factors also comes into picture. So, why do we want to do this? This particular case is for vertigo-related diseases. Some of the professionals here might already be working on this. So, but there are some vertigos are quite um, I mean, uh, dangerous, virulent, and so on, but they almost camouflage as close to some very simple, innocuous ones. So, want to separate these and say from VM, from Meniere, vestibular VM from vestibular disorders, strokes from VN, and so on. But one of the reasons is the neuro-otologists are very few and far in between. They're hard to find. And their specialist knowledge gets coded in this and can be made available in the frontline clinics and so on, even in remote areas. So the data is often say, historic, medical history, video, histomography, audio vestibular, caloraphy. All this can go in, and various tests, etc. Okay, and these are some of the cases, and this is of course ongoing, but a number of proof of concept for pairwise separation of several disease classes have been happening, and so on. That's a theme. I will leave that. And similarly, there can be other cases like this one predicts the operations and deviations from chemical plants well in advance, about 2 hours to 4 hours, 1 to 4 hours in advance. So the the, the chemical factory, which can be huge, that runs for acres and acres, and can actually detect ahead which if a reactor is going to go off, and then some kind of correction is required, and they can deploy specialist staff to that. This is predicting aged care risk. That is for people who live in um, environment, I mean, in their home care environment, as they're old senior folks, but they would prefer to live independently. But at certain point, the risk is too high, and that needs to be detected, and and then they report it, and so they can consult, and it actually goes to the team, supporting team. They can actually evaluate, and similarly detecting frauds and so on. But in all these cases, there are certain factors that comes in. But this is another interesting one. This is about predicting and exploring socio-political conflicts. And this is about, but this employs agents, which can think, feel type of agents, and they have values and they see the context. And thus they simulate the world, and they represent a group of people. So this have been, and now probably they're a bit out of date, but we started this in early 2000, and many deployments were made to understand conflict and in a way to diffuse conflicts around the world. And not that they have all been successful, but at least you could understand ahead of time what could be of interest. So in all these cases, the process is similar. Formulate problem, acquire data, prepare, explore, develop model, and you get to a POC, and you go through further, and it can go to production. But then there are many challenges, including identifying, you don't want to end up with the wrong problem. If you solve the wrong problem, write the wrong it gets, and so on. So there can be incorrect assumption. There can be bias in the model, meaning the model can get the historic data and the historic biases and discriminatory practices, or all that can get encoded in the model, and it can be made worse. So you need to check all that. How do we do this? So one is a participatory and collaborative approach, and with, of course, data quality, processing, checking, and sensitivity of the data. An explanation is built into the model, and this is an iterative process that goes through that. So there are many advantages, despite some of the risk of AI that I'm going to outline. But there are many advantages of using AI in many cases, in hazardous environment, in having an eyesight that could be better than human, in reading things, and maybe even radiology report. But in all these cases, the AI should be, there are many ethical challenges, as I said, and including the cases of deepfake, including the cases of biases in the models, and models not performing appropriately in the context, and so on. So it is to control this, and there are ethical principles, and among them, of course, I would focus on a few. And one is fairness and non-discrimination. This should be built into the model. It should be built into the practice, and so on. You need to check. And this the discrimination arises as, for example, if you use a historic data that encodes discrimination against, let us say, women in hiring processes. And if the model learns from that, it will learn very well, and it will propagate it. And it will propagate better than humans. And so there is always a need to check this. And same is the case in medical healthcare related model. Some community or minority or a gender and so on could be left out of the training data. It's more so if it's a minority. And some of the minorities may even feel very sensitive about their data being shared, etc. So it makes it even the acute problem. So when this happens, and maybe you build a model in a high socioeconomic conditions and area, and which means it may not be applied to other cases where the socioeconomic conditions may be different and so on. So this is one of the key things. So we want to ensure early on that such discrimination is not encoded in the model. And similarly, there can be, but one of the things is this discrimination is not being um, uh, engendered or it's not created by AI. Rather, it is a societal discrimination. But when it becomes an AI problem, it can be magnified many folds. But it is also giving us an opportunity. It's giving us a mirror to see the society through this AI. So this is something to recognize as well. It helps us confront our own biases over the years. And so that's something I would like you to keep in mind. Then similarly, human, societal, environmental well-being. And the model should support human, societal, environmental well-being. In fact, there are many questions about it in today's models. And many of the models are creating polarization in the society, especially social media type of model, and bubbles and so on. And in the societal context and in the environmental context, some of the large models indeed I mean, they consume quite a bit of energy and water for cooling and so on. And similarly, there is a need to consider the transparency and explainability. What you build should not be a black box, and that you are using AI should be transparent and disclosed. And it should have human values at the back of it, and there should be an accountability behind this model. So these models are never deployed to the end use directly. They can advise, depending on the severity, they can advise, but it has to be subservient to a human. In this case, let's say a medical professional. It may give them some input, but there's a need for a design where it should not take away the control and so on. Of course, privacy and security of the data is important. The model should be safe, etc. Okay, and then it need to be a process to contest. And why am I bringing these? And so in this case, while there are also so many benefits, and there can be novel insights, it can help process molecules that have never been created before. And some of these molecules could have therapeutic properties, and there can be economic benefits, of course. There can be environmental benefits. Some huge models could certainly contribute to climate climate change control, and so AI can be for good in many ways, and including diagnosis and so on. But we need to be conscious of the justice, human freedom, and the broader societal issues and so on, and the metaphysical issues as well. In terms of course, we are not there yet, but it's something to nice to have and think about, including machine consciousness and singularity, but the changes to human nature is already happening in many ways. It is the least of which is that I'm going to show some of the paradoxes. Okay, so give you a very quick overview of this. Of course, there is efficiency paradox. Things look efficient, or it has been happening ever since the technological revolution. Progress. There should be time saved, but we are time poor. And there is also attention paradox. These devices should make you more attentive, but what we are seeing is fragmented attention, fragmented by various devices and opportunities to take away the attention. There is intimacy, meaning we seem connected, but we are also alienated. And there is abundant information, but we are starving for wisdom. And there can be more capability, but less choice. And it might be removing friction, but seemingly you are also getting channeled into one way of thinking. And so hyper-personalization here in the 9 comes with a regression to mean. Okay? So it can strip diversity. And some of these could create, of course, there can be black box, and it could create economic paradox of job losses and so on. But continued job loss also mean it profits of the companies might increase to some extent, but then the consumption might decrease. And that sustainability paradox by some of the large models and authenticity. We talk about objective truth and so on, but AI can create what's seemingly objective truth, right? It so like now, for example, it could be an agent that could be speaking in the middle of the night that I don't have to wake up, that you might think. But it can also be on adverse things like deep fake and various synthetic illusions. And so there can artificial intelligence can also lead to the skill erosion, intuition erosion. Finally, the existential paradox. If AI were to do all this, what is human relevance? Okay. So in these both cases, on one hand, we have paradoxes, on the other hand, we have various ethical challenges. What kind of future are we heading into? And we can look at we don't have to predict, even though humans have been predicting in many ways. And my profession as a data scientist is often related to it's about prediction. I often joke that we are the astrologers of this era, just the tools are different. And so in these different factors, you can put it together. Even simply gauge without making a point prediction what could be the corner futures. And on one hand, there could be high level of adoption and advancement in the technological convergence. In this case, in the left lower and on the right higher. And but at the same time, the political, social, economic, environmental climate could be favorable, as in the lower side, or unfavorable in the higher side. So if we end up in a case where unfavorable, unstable conditions, but a high level of technological adoption, this is the top right is where we are heading. Okay, and that is certainly not where we want to be heading. And on the left, of course, there is very low technological progress, but high unfavorable condition. It's your post-catastrophic conditions. A very and then it could be political, social climate is favorable, but no progress. Then we are in the left. Bottom. The right bottom corner is where we want to be, but it is where also many of the challenges need to be confronted if we want to be in this corner. So one of the way that challenges is confronted is to find meaning in human um, life and find, um, enable and build the capacity to tackle the ethical challenges. On paper, ethical challenges are easy, but where rubber meets the road, it's always hard. And so to build the capacity to address ethical challenges, use this opportunity to make a better society that is, and as well as handling the various paradoxes and the meaninglessness that might be induced by technology is that is where we want to be looking at, um, how we actually process data, how we understand data, and how we make decisions. And starting from, say, data, when we talk about data, we are talking about low raw signals and information which is kind of organized data. And then if that information could have relationship, I talked about a system. If it can explain a relationship, we have knowledge. The, the frontier models, so LLMs, gives you knowledge. So in the current sense, you can get up to knowledge. In fact, the LLMs, as you know, are the great integrators of world's knowledge. They are not reasoning agents. They are not intelligent in the sense of intelligent, but they can gather a lot of experience and so on. But if you want to elevate yourself further to on understanding or questions of why, or the wisdom that is entirely the human domain and the potential. If you were to map this along the mind stages that Maharishi has given us, of course, and the top three, that's that research, realization, and the conclusion, or as you might say, is in this realm, and it's very much human. And so elevating this data to wisdom is the process, but we can only get up to knowledge with this, with artificial intelligence. But we need to operate at the higher level. And it's even pertinent for model developers like myself. We often think of, for the majority of us, think about data, tools and infrastructure, methods and frameworks, which are perfectly fine and necessary, but not sufficient. If we mix this integrative mindset, that integrative mindset is the one that's going to put you in the correct path. And I'm sure this is applicable to any profession as well. But in this case, when you are building models and so on, as well as maintaining, running them, etc., this mindset is as much required there as any of the above, but it's often misled. Okay, so that is one side of things. Okay, and I don't need to tell you what would give this kind of mindset. And the second part is the usefulness of AI in spirituality. How could it be useful? Of course, it can be quite easily deployed and used in, for example, in training. We can put Mauritius or any other materials into um, uh, one of the frontier models, not the one type of models I was talking about. Those are narrow AI, and they're meant for very specific purpose and very small models. But here, you can put it into LLM and it can be made available, etc. That is fine. So as a tutoring agent, that's one that is obvious, but I'm not heading there. But what happens if we were to think about or use this to investigate the life force itself? And but as any good anyone worth the salt in research would start with, I started with some literature review and looked at the biomagnetism or related terms, EEGs, MEG, all the data collection methods and AI and the meditation, etc. And one of the some of these are represented in, if you look at the data, and this is one of the areas AI could actually help quite well. AI is a good integrator of knowledge. It can search better than humans, but it might bring garbage or and so on. But it's for us to interpret it correctly and govern this. But nonetheless, it's so when I did that, so there are a few um, areas that emerged as important. And one is the individual representations in pairs, but not fully integrated. And there are studies on MEG and on different meditation styles and EEG on meditation state decoding, etc., but very little on the biofield or life force itself. Nothing has been operationalized. And these are just some example of some of the recent papers in this area. I'm sure many of you have read this in the past, and but one of the things, and then so this is on the MEG side, and this is on the EEG side of things. So some of the things that the quick search brought about is so there have been prototypes aimed at real-time feedback and improving and self-supervised learning and so on. And so if I were to so one potential area is and the MEG studies, for example. There's a detailed characterization of how meditation shifts neural oscillations, connectivity, complexity, criticality, etc. And evidence that even subtle states are identified, and such as the boundary dissolution, could be whether it could be decoded, and so on. And the EEG studies, on the other hand, some of them have been testing the pipelines for meditation state classification, and some using such techniques as deep learning or self-supervised learning, etc. And then looking at cross-subject variability, etc. So there is some communities looking at some of these, and but overall integration is missing, and there are some computational descriptors of these proxies, and they have looked at meditation styles, and what is not yet in the literature, as you already know, there is nothing about life force or biofield and so on. So only we are still dealing at the level of proxies because we cannot measure any deeper. But even with the proxies, and there are some progress, and so it is partly, in fact, they have been comparing focused attention or concentration type of meditation versus open monitoring, OM type of meditations, as some of you may have already gone through this or may already be working in this area. And but in fact, they say they show different connectivity patterns and so on. And but these two polarities are these two archetype meditation styles are often used as contrasting conditions, the experimental arm. What are the gaps here? The life as a hypothesis and measure. We don't have that, of course. And so what we are using are the proxies, MEG and EEG type of signals, and so on. None of the peer-reviewed posts, papers that I could search and get quickly are from that are there. None of them operationalize live posts in any way equal in biofield. It can be life force, biofield, chi, prana. I put a range of these, and or none of them are picking up that particular thing. But on the other hand, there is a disjointed space even within these proxies of MEG and EEG, BCI, even though they each of them are fairly rich area. And so the mechanistic understanding is emerging, but they're two different, it seems to be two different fields. I'm sure some of them have started employing both. And but but I couldn't find anything that is deployed from one to another and so on. So this what does it mean? There are opportunities to be explored, especially for this group, and so that is there can be areas such as biomagnetic modalities, meditation, altered states, computational AI component, and neurofeedback. Even without understanding the deeper side, it is possible to think of maybe building or devices that might actually help or measure or assist in a practical sense. But I haven't really explored deep enough. I haven't worked on it. But this is something I thought that is interesting. But together, so there is synergy. It's not just synergy. There's synergy between uh, a, um, a spiritual state of human and as well versus an AI, the machine. And at the very simplest level, the machines can help reflect on the society, and it could help give devices that may be of some assistance in healthcare or even in potentially such areas as meditation. And so that, however, it needs to be explored. And but AI itself, as an AI or machine model developer in general, AI itself requires a mindset, and from us, from the society, and so on, and that needs to be elevated because it if you want to live and govern this AI world without getting lost, we need this. We need a mind that can stay with whatever the problem is, and a conditioned mind that easily slips into entertainment, for example, is it only gets accentuated and gets further deeper into this in getting lost in that sense. So if a human mind can generate thought, as we know, the TV can help generate even more, and all the devices and so on, and can make it worse. In fact, as it's often recognized as even that this is in fact um, an inevitable need for the spiritual practices to be incorporated by general public, AI developers, and so on, and vice versa. So there is synergy, and that. So with that, I will stop here and take questions or happy to correspond at a later stage through WhatsApp or any other means. You can certainly look me up as well, just by name, should at least point to the website or contact details. Thank you so much. வாழ்க வளமுடன். வாழ்க வையகம். வாழ்க வளமுடன். And thank you again for the opportunity, Dr. Rabindranath Aiya and Vijayalakshmi Madam, and as well as for the whole forum. Thank you. I stop here at this day.
Anyone from the floor can start the question session. Shakti.
Yes, doctor.
Oh, any
Yeah.
question?
So artificial concept, of course, evolved for quite some time.
Yes.
So basically, it works within the specified rule of logics and systematic approach.
Yes.
And I think what it has got a limitation as as far as the network that has been created by the unified force. So I feel we are going through this cycle. So I also strongly feel there would be a outcome where the another version of artificial intelligence could come up.
Yes.
Anything you can probably, Mr. Bharati sir, you can narrate on that.
Certainly. Thank you, Shakti sir. So, if I can, so of course this is only one version of AI that we are dealing with, or what people think AI. Often they are referring to, say, these frontier models, a large language model. Now they are multimodal model. They can have some vision and so on. But these are, as I said, they are based on large neural networks and so on, based on transformer architecture. And but they work, they aggregate knowledge, and they learn from books and internet and all that trolls, everything they scroll and they have learned. So they're very good language engines, which means their grammar is good, the syntax of grammar is excellent, their vocabulary is good, and their knowledge base is good. And what they are giving you back is a probabilistic outcome. You ask a question, what it is doing is it does not understand the concept in detail, but where it is placed in its memory or the map, we call it embedding, there are relationships between these contexts. It's a knowledge. Knowledge means the data coded into information. Information is related. So it has that knowledge base. And so when you ask a question, it starts predicting it's what you are asking. And once it understands, it predicts what the output should be. And the output is coming from its aggregated knowledge. As I said, it's an excellent aggregator. However, it is just throwing out probabilistically our answer, which is plausible, but may not be the exact one. So it sounds good, it's plausible. So how we use it, we need to know that it is a plausible answer. And we can generate multiple plausible answers. That's how we should use it. Okay. But now what happens next? It can go to the next level after some time. And maybe it got too much hype now. That is one of the problems, because most people didn't see the previous versions. But now this one can talk to people and interact. So everyone has been swept away. The models I described are much simpler. They're very focused, and that you build on the local data. So they are not using LLMs at all. But um, but this is, but they are very narrow as well. That's why we call them narrow AI. But these ChatGPTs and Gemini, Claude, etc., these are large language models. But there is a limitation, as I said. They are dealing at the level of knowledge. And they don't have any understanding. They don't have any wisdom. Certainly not. But that is the human realm. What would be the next generation, or in a few generations of AI? We don't know. But the current technology would not take you there. And there are many other alternatives being explored, but none of them in the short term will take you there. But even without that, even without any conscious technology, this is already integrating well into the human consciousness in many ways. So these paradoxes are not going to go away just because AI is going to be another one. But even without this, this is actually um, building itself into a number of ethical issues and the paradoxes, and it is integrating into human society. So in a way, what they call the singularity is coming through. May not be the sophisticated singularity, but even the dumber version can take humans along. So it's like leading, um, um, say, the cattle or the flock, and everyone gets onto it and think through that, live through that. Then it can direct you in that direction. So the risks exist. The benefits of having a fully autonomous system, and the risk of that part we may not have realized. So where are we? And so this we are on. People are researching and getting through, but that is it may not the current version, but but the singularity in a way it has come almost there, come through.
Okay, the curiosity really lies on the today's topic. So, how far the AI connect with our, in this spiritual path,
Hmm.
would be in this path. Though we talk about, it's again what we build on the data science, the
Hmm.
whole thing. It is the
Hmm.
basis that whatever the
Yes.
big data, based on that we evolve.
Yes.
But see the spirituality basically from the intuition. The,
Yes.
that's
Right.
basically that is where we are connected with the
Hmm.
cosmos.
Yes.
Uh, so that is the difference between the man and machine.
Yes.
Uh, the feel, the intuition. So our curiosity on today's topic, where do you find the connect? So how it does help beyond the analytics,
Hmm.
beyond the logics. So how far we
Yes.
will be successful.
So I think that on one hand, it's not going to give you that intuition. In fact, I hope not. And that should be preserved for human knowledge if you want to tap into that. But however, there can be potentially tools that might assist. There may be tools that help you with meditation in maybe in a few years and so on. Maybe, or them tools that help you monitor your bodily functions and vitals and so on as people participate in this. So that is one possibility. Doesn't require it to be connected to intuition. And even though BCI, etc., EEG, these are signals from EEGs from the surface and so on. And these signals are taken and they are correlating with other mental states and physical states, etc. And so they are. That is why I kept saying these are proxies. They are none of them are actually looking into that, but these proxies are um, correlations, and then these can be useful correlations. So many of them are studying um, actual practitioners and who are well-trained practitioners, mostly Tibetan monks. And so they are vipassanas and vajrasana or training, etc. They have been monitoring and using advanced signal processing and machine learning tools, and then they're trying to characterize this what their state is, at least as measured by these devices and the various vitals. So they can record the vitals, calming down, slowing down. These are well recorded, and then they also ask how they feel about the boundary and so on. So on well-trained practitioners, many of them are carried out, not on larger population other than as controls. And yeah, so some of them are looking at magnetic encephalography type of techniques and so on, but they are not the same as in the strict sense into biomagnetism or and so on. So if any of you know of any instrument or any way people have been studying that would be useful. But otherwise, these are all done on proxies.
Yeah, Vargalam, this is Tarun. I think probably around last year, I did presentation. I actually, as I said, I just finished my thesis on financial engineering using
Mm-hmm.
LLM models, mostly working around human emotions and different magnetic force. So I
Yes.
have been measuring my brain waves for about 2+ years now with an instrument called Muse, which is which is a simulated EEG, measures the brain wave, and then I have the data and I simulated the whole thing. Kind of works with what you just said about how mindful I am and how it interacts and everything.
Yes.
So I have my
Mm-hmm.
own data to work on it, and the whole reason why I did the thesis on the financial engineering part is there's a lot of models around probabilities, as you touched upon the fact that these are like a probabilistic answers, not the accurate answers that you make. So how
Yes.
closer mathematically you can get from um, a probabilistic results to closer to the market results, which also emulates some kind of human being. I'm been trying to do that with an instrument just on me, and see how this can be. But I haven't integrated with an AI based model based, but I have independently worked on. So maybe if you're interested, I can show you the work I have done sometime.
But
And
would
then,
love to. Would love to. Thank you so much. Actually, it is great case of self experimentation. As we know, in fact, many early scientists experimented on themselves and so on. So it's
because
a
if I
great
have to
great.
reach to the wider scientific audience, I'll need more
Mhm.
sampling, obviously. But at this
Yes.
point of time, since I haven't finished completing my model myself, I'm
Hmm.
not in a position to explain to the wider audience and expect more data. It's not in
Yes.
what you call human place, but it's only been tested on me. So I worked
Yes.
deeper into the life force particle and how it works, and built a model on Higgs bosons and everything. So yeah, just curious about your presentation, and it kind of works out what I'm thinking and the way you already advanced in your work. I would like to see if I can collaborate with you. Thank you.
I wouldn't say advanced, and you are probably much deeper into it than I am. I'm just scratching the surface. So, of course, I've been involved in the AI space for a while, but this
I haven't
is
done the
yeah,
AI space. I've only done the other piece where I tested on myself to see how it
sure.
was. So
Yeah. But you did analyze the data, right?
yes, I
In the
have data for about 2.5 years now. So my
right.
own meditation every day, morning, afternoon, evening, and how it feels and how the instrument
Mhm.
measures and everything. So
Sure. So, of course, if you want to expand to the larger group, these are human trials. So you need to have that ethics application
right, yeah.
describing how and why you are doing it, how you will protect this data, and so on. So,
Hmm.
but that ethics application, of course, it is that they participate as a voluntary,
Right.
with voluntary informed consent, and so on. And then how you would manage that data, and how you would, how if there were any harms, how you would actually minimize that, and so on. So it's yeah. So that's yeah. That is if you are able to um, conclude this, and if you want to go to the next level, that is probably the next step. And yeah,
Yeah, thank you
but
very
I'm sure you have already looked into that. But I'm more than happy to take a look at what you have been.
much. Sure,
Um,
I'll definitely
very
get that.
very
Thank you.
thrilled. Yeah. Thank you. So if there are any other questions, can take.
Uh,
Otherwise, yeah. Yes, I think.
One such, I just want to know. See, we have many expectations on the particle science, especially the science is also not clear.
Yes.
It has not come to a point of conclusion,
No.
even till the recent researches. Is there
Mm.
any work? Is there any work to your probably the professional circle you are connected with? Any contemplation or any work going on this space?
Okay. In quantum physics and theoretical physics, and or in quantum physics particularly, there's a lot of work being done, and but it seems like a bottomless pit, right? It's they're discovering further and further, but so when you look at it at that level, any model is abstract, and so what Maharishi described it as these particles coming together and forming the world at as a as a uh, what do you say explanation that will cater to everyone and so on. That certainly makes sense. And so even though there may be some areas that I don't know, if at least my limited physics, which is more conventional, is not agreeing with, but when I look at it from my limited knowledge of quantum physics, that it makes sense. But this is it's an ongoing thing, and uh, some of the questions that have been asked include how the universe is formed and what was there before Big Bang and so on, etc., and including string theory and so on. There many of them are ongoing investigations. So I'm neither the expert nor someone who works in this area. And as I said, my one touch point for looking at this is to be a curious system scientist or systems and a modeler. So that's what I bring to the scientific side of things. Yeah. So I don't know, and yeah, I have a lot of interest in physics, but my physics is the field has left me far behind. It has moved on.
Thank you. I got it.
Yeah.
Thank you.
ஐயா வாழ்க வளமுடன்.
Wonderful.
Thank you very much. Could you explain how this AI has its impact on life force and its functions in this complex human body?
That is that's an excellent question. We don't know the answer to. We are coming to. I mean, at the moment, the AI that we know, we use at the moment, that is in front of us, is another computing device. So it may be impacting here. I'm a life force in a manner that any electronic device might be impacting. That is at one level, at the physical level. Okay, maybe you are sitting next to these electronic devices. It may be impacting our bodies, and but that goes for several devices. And but then at the informational level, it is giving us information. We are assimilating this information in a way, right? It is removing certain frictions from life. And on one hand, for the sake of convenience, they seem good. Okay, so I don't have to write this and so on. So it is an added convenience. But each convenience, as I pointed out, is resulting in a paradox. Is when something is giving you the information, are you letting yourself rot? We don't know. At the same time, if it can take away certain tasks, it's supposed to free your time up. But if you were to fill that time up with, say, I'm not saying you, but humans, if they were to fill that time up watching TV, for example, or watching shorts, I think shorts are probably more popular these days than even TV, and YouTube shorts and so on. And we are not utilizing that time that we saved onto something more productive. It can be as simple as exercise, it can be meditation, and so on. So on one hand, there are opportunities it's giving us, and are we taking it up? But again, having said that, especially the models that are designed and provided by these, what you call frontier models, they are better because of the scale and the investment. And they are designed to hook you up. They're designed to keep you engaged. And so if you keep conversing with them, they're like a friend, like a therapist, and so on. So which means you will start aligning with this. What it is doing, I don't know. To the life force, but it is certainly doing something to your cognition, your thinking, and so on. And there have been cases of suicide, ill-advised by LLMs, and so on, unfortunately. So that is those are extreme cases. But what about the other day-to-day cases where let's say we'd like to talk to LLM, say an elderly lady living alone, maybe starts chatting with LLM. What is it doing to her? We don't know. And what is it doing to children? And we don't know. But all the devices, the whole digital world is designed to engage you and keep you hooked. and not just the digital world. And digital world is a tool. They're all designed to hook you to consumerism. So as long as we recognize that, we are aware of it, and we can say, I believe we can safely interact with these devices and the digital world. So that's at least my perspective, sir.
Thank you. Yeah, வாழ்க வளமுடன்.
வாழ்க வளமுடன். This is Ashwin Shah.
Yeah.
And it's very interesting to go through your presentation and raises so many questions, not just in my mind, but many people's mind. But the ultimate aim of the meditation is to develop the awareness so that one can understand the providence of nature, the laws of cause and effect system. So my question is how AI can help in promoting and boosting the practice of meditation, because AI always needs a device that has to be used to get guidance or help us in our activities. But the biggest device that we have is ourselves. And if we have the awareness of the laws of nature, then probably you do not need the help of artificial intelligence. So, but we still can use the artificial intelligence to motivate ourselves and boost our quest to understand the laws of nature through meditations. So how AI can be helpful in that regard? Studying data and all of that is well and good. There are a lot of limitations. The algorithms that are based on the probabilistic nature and so forth, they all keep on iterating and revising their both algorithms and the predictions by minimizing the errors based on the past data, But the ultimate aim for meditation, as I said, is developing the awareness that the biggest device is ourselves, not the physical devices that AI uses, So can you throw some light or answer what I just said?
Yes. So, firstly, sir, you are spot on. If you have the awareness, you don't need the AI. But AI is there. How do we interact? That is one. And if you can interact with that level of awareness, then you can make AI more productive and mitigate some of the challenges that they pose. But secondly, you asked a practical question: how could AI help in meditation? We are not there yet, but that is where some of the EEGs and signals monitoring, etc., comes in creating this awareness. Let us assume, I'm hypothesizing or hallucinating here. Okay, let's assume that we have a device. It detects the mental states. Mental states can be detected already. You have this BCI data that, in fact, people can wear these devices and using their thought and intent can move things, can press buttons and so on. Similarly, they can detect the signal, type of signals, and take instructions from it. And so one of the possible devices could be that they monitor your mental state when you are slipping into this thought stream. Maybe it gives you a signal, you come back. And if I were to be very crude, okay, if we were to be the old style, Siddha style master, maybe it gives you a knock on the head. Hey, stop dreaming and pay attention. Pay attention to your breath or something. It could give you a reminder when you are slipping into these thought streams in and get into this unaware state. That's possible. And I'm not saying that it should be, but that could be possible. And
Excuse, sorry to interrupt. In that state, if AI can say you are slipping the concentration, that time VR itself is getting the concentration with our mind, right?
yes,
So there is no need of AI in that, even with the life force, the
no,
definition that you gave is particle physics says is only the observer effect.
yes,
Whenever only we observe, it gives data. If it is not observed, the data will not be the same.
yes,
Maybe organ level we can able to identify, right, any defects
yes,
or whatever the operations are going on within the body. But with the particle level, if we go, it's up to the observer time. So
yes.
at that state, how the AI can able to help, or it no need at that state?
I think you already answered yes. The question, you probably don't need AI at that level, but it's mainly one of the difficulties most of us face. Is life comes and then you get distracted and your mind drifts. So what I was suggesting, as I said, is hallucinating is a low tech in many ways. It just gives you a reminder. Perhaps it should remain a low tech, not integrated further than that. That's why I suggested, okay, it just gives you a reminder. It can maybe monitor the signal even remotely, and then just tells you, okay, stop dreaming. Okay, pay attention to your breath. Then after that, it's you are on your own. But yeah, so it doesn't interfere with any of the other the processes or life force in any other way. It's just a reminder. So it's like, maybe think of it like an anti-TV, anti-entertainment that just puts you back on track on a daily life, not while meditating, but when you are in the daily life, it just could give you a reminder. Anything deeper, I'm actually getting out of my comfort zone. I mean, you could think about having chips or continuously monitoring, integrating with yourself and so on. This is where you need to think about all the ethical and other implications of that. And even the biological implication. Is it even safe? Right? And so I'm just staying away from that fiction type of world. But I believe it's your responsibility to meditate or stay in that awareness. But in this world of distraction, it could give you a little bit of help.
One more question, if I may ask.
Certainly.
As I understand, that the nature has certain laws that are invariant. They do
Yes.
not change to govern everything in the universe.
Yes.
Have you, or probably you're already doing it because that's what AI is doing. But what I'm trying to get at is that how AI can help in doing the reverse engineering based on the pattern precision, regularity, cognition, experience, and uh, discrimination data. Can we do the reverse engineering to find those exact laws, the definitive deterministic laws of nature? Because
Yeah.
in all yoga systems,
Mhm.
there are a lot of loose ends as far as I am understanding, that there are a lot of loose ends that have not been um, filled or explained to govern or to let us know what those laws are, other than what the realized rishis have been saying, that you have to practice yourself and realize that yourself. You understand it, but it's very difficult for you to explain it to somebody else. So is there any way to do that reverse engineering using AI? Or has there been any work in that direction?
So, so if I put it this way, the whole physical sciences and engineering and so on is based on the physical sciences particularly is based on the observable universe. And AI is being increasingly used in this space to study molecules, their interaction, the study at the minute level. And similarly, at the particle accelerators and so on, study what the universe is. In fact, this has been done for quite some time. And the computing power is increasing, and they are using more and more techniques. And one of the things that they are trying to develop are these quantum computers and so on. And because these computers can process much more information in a very short time. And so if when they are, the idea is to employ them on very specific areas of research and specific compute to increase their compute capacity and so on. But remember, all this is based on the observable universe, which means observable universe in which you can collect data. So it is driven by data, and so it can collect data. And people might say ChatGPT is proposing new ideas. What it's doing is it's regurgitating, creating different permutations and combinations. You can get it to do that. It's useful at certain level, but but even at the deeper level, it can create the combinations of experiments, combinations of molecules that never existed. Can you actually create it? And those sort of things are happening already. And in fact, in bioinformatics and so on, there is the field that tries to generate new molecules and for therapeutic purposes and so on. Similarly, for environmental protection, that is what I meant. So these can help you with this type of information, but this is again based on the sphere of observability and data that we have access to. And if you were to go a level deeper, they're trying to observe bosons and so on. Yes, and then they're not easily observable. They only manifest under certain conditions. And etc. So it's to get to that, to find new laws that have hitherto not existed, or find a universal law that governs all laws. And that level of thing is a holy grail of science, but it is not. But at the same time, it's more aspirational, um, not in the day-to-day realm. But it is good to have that aspiration. And yeah, it's theoretical physics, quantum chemistry. These areas are pushing their boundaries, and AI is helping. But usually, this help is incremental, not 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 a leap. That leap would come from a sudden human intuition or observing failures that have occurred in number of cases, and suddenly somebody puts it together, and then that creates a theory or a hypothesis, and that needs to be tested. And so that is how science advances. And so in that way, the scientific knowledge can be imperfect.
True, but imagining the size of the universe, which we call it as infinite, the amount of data that exists in this universe in several different areas is, I would still put it that at infinite level, that there's infinite amount of data in the
Yes.
entire universe in
Yes.
different areas.
Hmm.
I personally believe that we are the AI in current state is not even able to handle a fraction of that data, a a very infinitesimal fraction of the
Yeah.
data that AI is handling
That's true.
based
That's true.
on the today's capacity. So
Yes.
what I'm trying to drive at is that, are there other ways to understand the laws of nature other than AI? Or can AI supplement to that? Because
So
we are at, if we compare that infinite amount of data versus what we are dealing with today, we're so far off that we have not even scratched into it.
yes, that is true. And I will let me point to this. When we deal with complex system, how we look at it, this is we are looking at the world through a representation, and it's mostly our capacity that is limiting, capacity and the perspective. And so we cannot know the whole truth, at least in the approach that we take. The systems approach is slightly better because it does not deal with individual fragmented ideas. It puts it together, but still, it's still within this way of cognition and thinking and so on. And so if thinking through something and putting pieces together is that synthetic discipline, the the traditional science is about breaking it up and understanding something small, specific, but very precisely, or as precisely as possible. System science has put these disparate pieces together to get a relatively larger picture. It says it's we define that as a systems view. It's bigger, and but it is still not the whole fundamental truth. So there is a limitation. So, but applying this type of principle in the scientific context, in the investigation, bringing these pieces together, bringing many AIs together, or many, you may be able to get a slightly bigger picture. But if this is where the holistic understanding differs from the reductive approaches. So systems science and engineering is it's shifting it towards holism, but it is still an engineering and science discipline. So it is not going to give you that spiritual knowledge, but it is a useful framework to work through science and look at the world and so on. But it's not going to replace what you see. But what we should recognize is there is complementarity. Even in cases, there are entirely not entirely compatible views. So there is because we can never know the full truth. So giving that benefit of doubt always introducing that doubt is helpful for further learning and being open to others' ideas, and of course for a harmonious society. So because that is a limit of science. So if everyone acknowledge their views and religious views or societal views and so on, can have doubt, it's not certain, half the problems are solved, right? And even without having to understand about the whole world or whole universe, while that pursuit can still remain, of course.
Thank you.
I mean, I certainly didn't answer your question.
No, you did.
But
this is a very interesting topic. Both spirituality and science merging it together is a very challenging task, in my personal opinion. And AI is one of the ways to, come closer to spirituality. Yeah. So, and that's how human being has progressed. They always try something small, as you said, and they go to the bigger level. So I'm 100% with you on what you said. I was just expressing my thoughts, basically. Yeah, but
that's
very excellent presentation, and it's very informative, educating, and thank you for being with us in this group and make a presentation. வாழ்க வளமுடன்.
I mean, thank you so much for all the questions from everyone, because I learned much more than you did. So that is that's very helpful.
Thank you, Ayya. வாழ்க வளமுடன். Ayya, MBR Ayya. Would you give some feedback?
Vijay Lakshmi, this is time. Now we have come to know what to expect from AI, to what extent we have to learn a lot, understand a lot before we come to any conclusion. That is what the GnanaBharathy also was taking pains to explain to us. Anyway, we will see, we will wait for the day when it delivers the goods to us. Time to wind up.
Okay, Ayya. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Ayya.
For providing such a great opportunity to talk to GnanaBharathy Ayya in our Life Force system, MBR Ayya. Thank you so much. And GnanaBharathy Ayya, thank you so much with this heavy subject on this time, which is unusual time that you just, gave the offer that this great speech to us. And thank you so much again. And if we have any questions, we all can able to talk in the chat. Aya is in a
Sure.
WhatsApp group as well. வாழ்க வளமுடன். So with this, thank you, Aya. வாழ்க வளமுடன். So with this, we'll conclude.
Thank you for the opportunity. Yeah.
Thank you, Aya. வாழ்க வளமுடன். We'll conclude with the world blessings. May the world be blessed with plenty of rain. The farmers work to produce an abundance of grain. Let practitioners of all prosper, flourish, and grow, and culture progress through the need to share and grow. Let the rulers be beyond feelings of anger or fear, illiteracy, poverty, and all evils made to disappear. Let the true lamp of knowledge burn steady and bright. Our sense of duty guide us along paths always right. உலகமெல்லாம் பருவமழை ஒத்தபடி பெய்யட்டும், உழவரெல்லாம் தானியத்தை ஊப்புடனே பெருக்கட்டும், பல தொழில்கள் புரிகின்ற பாட்டாளி உயரட்டும், பகுத்துணர்வில் தொகுத்துணர்வு பண்பாட்டை உயர்த்தட்டும், கலகங்கள் போட்டி பகை கடந்தாட்சி நடக்கட்டும், கல்லாமை கடன் வறுமை களங்கங்கள் மறையட்டும், நலவாழ்வை அளிக்கும் மெய் ஞான ஒளி வீசட்டும், நம் கடமை அறவாழ்வின் நாட்டத்தே சிறக்கட்டும், நம் கடமை அறவாழ்வின் நாட்டத்தே சிறக்கட்டும், நம் கடமை அறவாழ்வின் நாட்டத்தே சிறக்கட்டும். வாழ்க வையகம், வாழ்க வையகம், வாழ்க வளமுடன். தேங்க்யூ. வாழ்க வளமுடன்.